Resident Evil 4 Remake is objectively a better game than the original, but everything else is somehow worse. It's an interesting case of how a game can be so much better if you just straight up skip all the cutscenes and ignore all the story related content. This is coming from someone who completed the original more than enough times on several different platforms, even including that awful PC port published by Ubisoft. Just goes to show how good the original game is, that even with a horrible port, the game's score still shines on. And just as humanity will keep trying to run Doom on every board of silicone, a new port of Resident Evil 4 will follow into the latest hardware generation, which I shall eventually play, until that sets me free of this recurrent Plaga nightmare. I had to get this footage somehow, and that was good enough of an excuse to stumble my way into yet another playthrough of this classic. So what about the remake? As people are usually more interested in the half-empty glass side of things, might as well go all out right away by starting with the worst part of it all. The general tone is overall less over-the-top cool because it's trying to bridge the rookie version of Leon from 2 to the one-man army that he becomes in 4. That means that no zipline belt, no slow-mo knife tricks, and definitely no backflips of lasers. That would be too stupid. He's backflipping off a wall to dodge 2 chainsaws. How did that make it in and not the lasers? There seems to be a lot of change just for the sake of being different, leaving both games at an equal footing. The original just want to string together some cool set pieces for Leon to parkour his way through, while the remake really wants to focus on telling a coherent story. There is now more backstory on how Leon and Krauser are related, how Louis goofed and is trying to redeem himself, and how Ada is still a bitch, but in a different dress. While I prefer the original Chinese dress, her new outfit is also pretty hot. But goddamn, if it isn't accompanied by the worst voice acting in the entire game by a large gap. Believe me, I would know, I'm pretty fucking awful at it myself. Something that sadly got completely lost in the process was the constant banter between the cast. The original knew how to play the foreign setting in tandem with the fractured structure of the cutscenes. So it's like everyone is just trying to one-up themselves at every camera cut, and that was and still is entertaining. We got Leon complaining about the locals, Sadler throwing shade about the Americans, and Luis being excited by big American titties. Leon still spouts some puns from time to time, but seeing how no one reacts to them make it seem like he is only thinking about saying them than actually going through with it. I also noticed how no one seems to be coming out of closets anymore, be it either Luis during the beginning, or Ashley in the iconic house set piece. Is Capcom not okay with the gays? No, never mind. It's actually the opposite. Capcom really does swing between making genre-defying all-time classics to being into some weird shit. I do wonder what is up with that. Going back on the outfits, they really turn out to be both a step forward and a step back, which I guess is a reflection of the game as a whole. Leon still looks sharp, as they didn't even dare to change his iconic look. Ashley would be perfectly fine if it weren't for the fake skirt shorts, and while Luis' jacket is pretty cool, I still personally prefer his original design, but I guess someone more important already stole that look. I also don't see why they couldn't include the costumes from Remake 2. It doesn't seem like it's a complicated endeavor, as there are a bunch of mods that offer those, and more, so the fault seems to fall entirely on Capcom here. The extra DLC costumes, on the other hand, are goddamn awful. They really didn't need to lean on the gothic so hard. The castle is only 1/3 of the game. Also, no popstar outfit for Ashley is a goddamn crime. And the suit rendition is just... Why is the hat straight? The whole outfit only worked because the hat was tilted. Still, pretty bold choice to put Adam Sandler completely naked under the robe. That was definitely unexpected, and certainly the biggest jump scare of the entire game. Of course, there is definitely something to be said about the loss of identity from the individual titles in favor of a more homogeneous design, something that is probably the worst aspect of the remake pipeline that doesn't show any signs of stopping. Yes, the menus are the straightest they'll ever be, and the quick readability is off the charts, but look at all of this unique detail, or this packed yet cleverly designed interface. We finally have widescreen as a standard, and you're telling me they couldn't put Leon on the inventory screen anymore. I need him to strike poses when equipping stuff, to know just how cool the weapons make me look. Capcom, where the hell is my cool egg holding? I know you want to charge $1.99 for it, don't you lie to me. As for other cut things, incendiary grenades are out, but personally I never cared for those. Normal and flash grenades are good enough as it is. What I do miss is kicking open doors. I don't see how bursting into a room like that would have ruined the balance that much. When putting it all like that, it seems like the remake turned out to be quite a downgrade. That is the opinion of someone who got stuck in what the game doesn't do, instead of looking at what it actually does. Maintaining a fast-paced arcade action, the synergy between gunplay and the enemies is so good that it honestly carries the entire game by itself, building upon the mechanics that made the original so enticing to replay. Instead of the survival aspect being a more methodical process of decisions that put the struggle on how to survive with so few bullets, here you're trying to kill everything to collect the ammunition that you're gonna shoot next and the money you'll be using to get new equipment. The satisfying gameplay then works in tandem with that to further this addictive arcade concept of a perfect run, where maybe next time you'll be able to achieve perfect accuracy, not getting it once, or actually finishing the game without getting bitten by a snake. Pack this together with a great selection of unlockables, and you got all the right reasons to go for another round. There's just something purely cathartic about finishing a professional run and then going all out with the infinite rocket launcher. The way the enemies now turn into red mist is a joy that doesn't get old. With the gameplay putting so much emphasis on the fast pace, if you want to play it as a linear shooting game like House of the Dead, you can also do that. Getting the highest rank on the hardest difficulty basically requires that, as you don't have any time to find comb the areas for treasure or to even organize your inventory. It's in this replay-based formula that you really appreciate the amount of quality of life improvements that the remake brought with it, especially if you play them back to back. Some of the most notable are the options for holding the prompt buttons instead of mashing, or running as a toggle. Talking about pressing less buttons where it doesn't matter, do you know what I don't miss? Fucking this. I still don't know who the hell thought this was a good idea, but if it's cutscene time, I don't want to worry about pressing buttons out of nowhere with little to no warning, to not being forced to watch it all from the beginning. A good goddamn riddance, and if anyone dares to say otherwise, then they are full of shit. On a more polarizing point, I have to say that the addition of an auto sort to the inventory is actually a good thing. Listen, I love inventory Tetris as much as anyone else, but I've been organizing inventories for more than 15 years, so give me a break already. This also pertains to the arcade nature that the remake is leaning into even harder, and just being able to open the inventory and go BAM! Organize is great. Adding to that, you can now customize your attaché case, which gives you perks, and instead of bottle caps, you get charms from the merchant's shooting range, to equip them on the case and get further bonuses. Love the callback to the Ditman's glitch of the original game, where you use the striker shotgun to make Leon move faster, which now has become a charm, which is pretty cute. Puzzles are still simplified as they started being in Remake 2, and honestly I could go with either or. I actually enjoyed all types of puzzles the original had, but either removing or just swapping them is just fine. I would bet my left nut that overall, there are more happy people about this change, as it's not like classic Resident Evil fans were really expecting for the remake of 4 to be the one to bring some sort of puzzle renaissance. The escort system is also less bothersome, as Ashley no longer has a separate health bar, and she doesn't require so many instances of having to catch her off a higher floor. You can also have her to be tight or loose, which honestly I didn't find any situation where I didn't enter to be as tight as possible, but I guess there are people that would benefit from her being loose. I will miss those big stupid ears though. I feel like there should be a button to make her ears pop out of her hair like some sort of wood in a convertible. She would be faster with them tucked in, but when they were out you could use them for defense like some sort of waist-high cover.
Take a look at... oh my god!
Another small change that I'm perfectly fine with is how bear traps no longer hurt you and are only used to pin you down for a few seconds. I guess they noticed that the disappointment from falling into the third trap in a row is damage enough for the soul. All the returning weapons continue to feel great to use, with all of the new ones being a welcome addition to the arsenal. And while I appreciate the attempt at trying to make the mine thrower useful, by converting it to a bolt thrower and having the mines as an optional add-on, I still don't like it. Props for the effort though, but Painkiller still holds the prestige of having the best weapon of that kind with its own stake gun. An amazing new detail is how Leon now uses the so-called central axis relock when near enemies, which is a shooting stance originally developed for close quarters. I was initially looking pretty skeptical at how the knife was reworked to break after a few uses, but only until I realized how they designed it to be an additional resource to be used as a lifeline for any mistakes you might commit. This was further alleviated to how you can not only repair your main knife, but also upgrade it to last longer and deal more damage, further reinforcing the merchant as a checkpoint between the more intense encounters. This is now the prime example for the discussion on how parrying makes everything better. Shooting axes out of the air is pretty cool, but what about you just slap the damn thing away? Get the fuck out of here with that weak shit. Oh, what is that, a chainsaw? You think you can cut through American steel? Oh fuck, apparently you can. Even if you could still abuse the knife to save on bullets, the game is now balanced around the concept of Leon being able to shoot while moving, so the enemies are much more aggressive than the original. No longer stopping a couple of feet in front of you so that they can be shot. Now they try to flank you at every opportunity, and dodging is much more harder as they grab onto you if you get too close to them. The same can be said about abusing invincible frames, like when you're trying to jump out of a window or going for a knife kill, as if there are any enemies in close proximity, it's certain that they are gonna hit you. There are also several parts where the enemies appear from behind you, so you can't always be sure that a previously clean path is still safe. While on the topic, the way that the map was reconstructed and remixed is honestly far superior to the original, if not just a tad too dark in some places. The best part now has to be when it turns to dusk during the village section, with a faint orange glow on the blue shadows, really adding some nice variation on the otherwise monotonous brown and grey of the classic. It's amazing how grounded the world feels now by having further parts of the map being interconnected instead of the original's mostly unique yet linear path, with some of it now being traversed in the opposite direction, which really plays with your expectations going in. It is now much easier to revisit past areas in case you forgot something, or you're just solving the new requests from the merchant, which now reward you with spinels that are now the currency to trade for special goodies like treasure maps or extra weapons. If there was a point that I could easily done without, was the forced walking session near the end. But I also didn't need the damn truck part in the original, so I'll take that concession. I personally didn't care for U3 or the repeat of the El Gigante fight, so I didn't miss those either. But it is a shame that the cable cars got cut. I just remembered about the prison section with the invisible bugs is also not anywhere to be seen. The footsteps in the water were a great moment and something that should have been guaranteed in the remake. The Mercenaries mode has recently been made available, so if you just want pure shooting, this is always worth your time. Especially with how each character has a different loadout for a completely different approach to each map. Lastly, even if the outfits are not as to par as I would like them to be, the accessories at least make it up by adding a little personal touch to your look by having a good array of choices in terms of eyewear, masks, and even different hair colors for Ashley. Now if only they let me tilt the damn hat, I would have been satisfied. It is really important to note that starting your first playthrough of the remake on the hardcore difficulty is a mistake. Whoever decided to write the description as being the most fitted to those who played the original is nothing short of an idiot. There is barely any mechanical knowledge from the original that will carry over to this one, especially with the slight difference in weapon handling, and the way the enemies barely get stunned from the shots will only leave you frustrated as your first impression. Seriously, just enjoy standard mode first, and then jump to higher difficulties. On a related topic, I recently managed to try out Resident Evil 8 on the PS VR2 as my first exposure to virtual reality, and it's basically as cool as I was expecting it. So I guess I can expect the VR mode for Remake 2 to be similarly an excellent experience. Still find it weird that this type of content is locked to PlayStation, so it is hoping for them to come out on the PC in the future. I don't know how much more content they'll put out for this, besides the separate ways that was already leaked. More characters and maps would be fun on Mercenaries, but besides that, I think that would be about it. Overall, it's an already great game that I recommend getting if you enjoy this sort of third-person shooter genre. As for now, I'll be here waiting for the remake of Resident Evil 5, because of course it's happening, who am I to stop this remake train? What would be really funny is if instead of 5, they just remake the first remake and have it in the same style as these ones, because I would be curious to know how they would work the camera around these types of claustrophobic corridors. Was it ever possible to entirely eclipse the original out of existence? No, that was never gonna happen. But at least we got a pretty good game out of this. If from now on, this one will take the responsibility of being the ported version into future generations, remains to be seen. But I can see myself coming back to it many times in the future.